Welcome to Mindshift. I'm Brandon. Today's episode 35 of my secular Bible study series. And stay tuned for this. There's a lot going on in this book, and we're going to treat it a little differently than we have been. We're talking about Habakkuk, and this is only 3 chapters. I'm going to treat it more like we did with Obadiah, where we get to most of the 7 points, but we're not going to go in this order. We're just going to kind of read through it and see what comes up and handle it as we get to it. And I promise that it's at least interesting. We deal with the problem of evil directly from the prophet who is complaining about it, where we have a chance to hear God's answer to it. Spoiler alert, it's disappointing. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So first of all, right off the bat, it's just making sure we understand this is the oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw. So Habakkuk gets a vision, and he also just straight up has a conversation with God. And so unlike many of the other minor prophets, Habakkuk here is not talking to the nation of Israel or calling for reproach. He's questioning God, and that does make it a really unique book. He brings up essentially the problem of evil, and we get God responding directly to him, and that is fascinating. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Habakkuk is a prophet. This is the last little time period of the southern kingdom before they are captured by Babylon. So some of the past ones we've been looking at have been mainly talking about the northern kingdom and the Assyrians. We are in the southern kingdom, and the threat to them is the Babylonians, or what the biblical text often call the Chaldeans. And so I guess now we are kind of following the 3 points, because I find myself wanting to just tell you about the historical context to kind of set the stage here. And that is a time of impending doom, of the invasion of Babylon to have come to power after, specifically, I think it was 605 BCE, the Battle of Carchemish. And I'd recommend looking that up. It's really fascinating. I mean, it's essentially the Babylonians versus the Egyptians, also the Assyrians. So the Babylonians are just, or the Chaldeans, are just absolutely raiding. And of course, then the southern kingdom is like, oh man, if Assyria got our northern kingdom and now Babylon has gotten the Assyrians and they've been able to conquer the Egyptians decidedly, we're probably next, or we're in the crosshairs. It doesn't take a great prophet of God to figure out that they're going to be on the chopping block. So I think that that context is really helpful, and it also again helps us place Habakkuk in his time frame. So let's get into Habakkuk's first complaint here, and I'll just read it to you. "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help and you will not hear, or cry to you violence and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity, and why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me, strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted." So there it is. We have him talking about the problem of evil. It's important to understand he's talking about the own evil of Israel. He'll talk later about the evil of other nations, but right now he's saying, look how corrupt our leaders are. Look at no one following the Torah. Look at the suffering of the individuals, the inequality of wealth, etc. Why, God? Why do you allow this? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does bad get to continue to flourish? Where is your law? Where is your justice? And God, he finally has a chance to answer this problem of evil once and for all. And what does he say? "Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if I told. For behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation." And he goes on to talk about how horrible these people are, but also how powerful they are. Kind of a weird brag from God, because he's the one taking credit for raising them up, again, making them so powerful that they could be winning against the Egyptians and the Assyrians, and now against his own people, because this is how he's going to utilize his judgment. Now, this is something I've talked about so much, so I won't beat a dead horse, but just how unfair it is for God to be using these nations that don't really know of him, right? They don't know the 613 commands that he gave to his chosen people. What law are they under? Who has communicated to them? It seems like he has no right to expect they would follow him. He's not their God. And again, they are no worse than any other city ever. So God's answer here is not sufficient. He's doing the old Christian apologetic of, don't worry, I got it, have faith, wait and see. You wouldn't be able to comprehend it even if I told you, and you wouldn't believe how great it's going to be. That's not an answer. The part that he does answer is vengeance. Don't worry, he says, I'm raising up the Chaldeans and they are going to destroy you. They're going to punish all that wicked that Israel has been doing. I gotcha. This is not the answer Habakkuk is looking for. And it definitely doesn't answer the problem of evil. It just means that the problem of evil exists, and the way that God is going to deal with it is to use an evil people group to do more harm, to create more evil for his own people. so they'll learn. Good plan, God. If this is the best the Bible can do when actually confronted with the problem of evil, and we have a God who is actually speaking directly to an individual to answer that specific question, even modern day apologists do better than this God. And Habakkuk knows it because he moves into his second complaint, which is to say, what are you talking about? The Babylonians are so evil. They're even worse than we are. Why would you use them and defer your punishment on them and your correcting of their behavior to get back at us in my complaint? This is an excellent question from Habakkuk. It shows the inconsistency of God's judgment. If you can defer punishment, then is it really justice? Doesn't it need to be accounted for right now? Shouldn't there be some hierarchy of who needs to be dealt with and when? No, this God is doing whatever he wants. And it sounds like he's kind of on the defensive in the corner of like, well, yeah, don't worry, you're right. People have gone pretty bad in Israel. I'll send these bad guys that I've been training up to be really bad over to deal with it. And Habakkuk's like, no, don't do that. Just help us. I could almost really sympathize with Habakkuk if it wasn't all coming from this in-group ideal still. He still views everyone that's not Jewish as terrible and evil and worse, even though they're not. He's going to list the woes of Babylon here in a minute. They are nothing different than what has gone on in Israel, but not to him, not to this chosen people group. They believe they are better. You guys seen any similarities to Christians today? Judging other people, judging other nations for their evil when they do the exact same thing, but it's different for them because they have the right God? Maybe Christians follow this Bible more than we thought. So again, Habakkuk presses God for a better answer. And he even does this little part. He says, I will take my stand at the watchpost, my station myself on the tower, and look out to see what he will say to me and what I will answer concerning my complaint. So he's not backing down. He's saying, hey, I'm here for it. I'm on the lookout, God. I am waiting for your answer. I am going nowhere. To which God replies, we're in chapter 2, by the way, now. Write this vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by faith. So again, we get Apologetics 101 with this God. His answer is have faith. In fact, that is the theme of this entire book. That is how it is still used today, that the righteous have faith. And faith in what? That it's all going to be made right in the end. But how is it going to be made right? God is pretty specific by punishment, by justice being served. And that's what Christians are still waiting on to this very day. That's what Christians are still being faithful, that this all will mean something, that Jesus will come, that it will be made right. Except that didn't happen in Jesus's time, which is what was expected, by the way, of a messianic prophet that is alluded to here. And so we've pushed that even further out. The second coming or the end of the world or heaven or whatever Christians want to hold on to. It's so funny to me that even God himself says, if it seems slow, wait for it. Good answer, bro. But he also says, it hastens to the end. It will not lie. It will surely come. It will not delay. If it's not delaying, where is it? Well, Brandon, God's time frame is way different than ours. 200,000 years would be nothing for a God like that. That's not what's being communicated here, and anyone being honest knows it. This is a conversation between God and Habakkuk, and he is saying, it's coming. Just wait. If it seems a little behind pace, it's coming. Have faith. You're righteous by your faith. What horrific answers to actual problems being addressed to this God. And the fact that Christians find anything beautiful in this is absolutely ridiculous to me. So Habakkuk really doubles down on how bad Babylon and other nations are, and we get this second part of chapter 2, and it's commonly referred to as kind of the 5 woes of Habakkuk, and it gets a little confusing. There's so many different categories that these could be put in, and some of them are kind of crossed over, but essentially the 5 woes might look something like this. The first one is woe to greed and extortion. The second one, kind of similar, is a woe to exploitation and the unjust gain of the elite. The third one is hilarious because it's criticizing them for having slaves, essentially, and treating them like animals. Do I need to remind anyone of the verse in Leviticus where God specifically says you can buy slaves from the nation around you and own them as what? Property. Just like the animals, and pass them down through your generations. And you can treat them however you want. The only rules for treatment of a slave is an Israelite slave or servant in their indentured contract of 7 years. And even with some good old fiddling, like having them get married or have kids, which would then be born into slavery, kept forever, you can get your indentured servant to stay longer. Who are the Israelites to talk about these sins of other nations or of the Babylonians? 4 would be woe to like debasement, drunkenness, being foolish, sexual proclivity, etc. And then 5 is idolatry. All of which, all 5 of these, every nation has probably done, and Israel has done. But we have to remember, in-group, out-group, we're the good guys. Yes, we may have done this, but we have better hearts. We serve the right God. Ultimately, we will win. God has promised us this. We come from Abraham, etc. It just, how stupid. And so it ends with chapter 3, which is a prayer from Habakkuk. And it starts like this: O Lord, I have heard the report of you, and your work, O Lord, do I fear. So once again, this seems to happen at the end. We have someone like Jeremiah or Job or Habakkuk that are questioning God, and they are always humbled by the end. They are always reminded of the power of God, and thus the fear of God being the correct position. And by the very end of this prayer, Habakkuk will be a man righteous by faith, because now he is convinced by faith that the future promise of this comeuppance for his enemies, or the rejuvenation of the chosen people, are coming. And that's it. That's the book of Habakkuk. More of the same, but slightly different, nevertheless interesting, and ultimately always failing. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful Thursday. I will see you Sunday with another new video, maybe an episode Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. We'll see what we can get to. And until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast and GVI, Jacob, Joe, Martin, Oliver, Perry, Rokkit, and Shawn; my Humanist heroes, Jarrod and Kristi; my Atheist advocates, Caleb, Jeffrey, Karen, Sparky, and Todd; as well as all of my secular scholar patrons. If you believe in the mission of this channel, or you just enjoy the content, please consider joining these fine people. Thanks, and have a great day.